Do you want to know more about detailing and weathering your locomotives? Why don't you stick around and watch this segment, see how we do it on my scale model railroad, the Sayre secondary. Hello everyone, Joe from Central Jersey Conrail and N-Scale. Welcome back to the Locomotive Shop. So this month on the Locomotive Shop, we are going to be doing a GP38-2 with a DCC board, and it's going to be a repaint with weathering. So this unit, 8078, this was an Atlas unit that I purchased secondhand off of the N-Scale yard sale. I was very shocked to see that it's actually looked brand new in the package, just like the last unit. And again, it looked like it was maybe taken out once and not really run. So there was a lot of break-in to do, some lubrication, because it looked like it had been sitting around for a while and was really dry. Once we got the unit running, it was really good, and started doing the research for the painting, because it was done in the Conrail quality logo with the white number boards, and I didn't like it, and I wanted to go back to the can opener logo. So in doing the research for this unit, I was trying to decide what number to use. Generally speaking, I like to use the same number that comes through on the factory number boards, because it's just easier to do the number boards that way and not have to change them. So I started doing some research, and 8078 was the original number that came from Atlas. And through my research, I found out that it was originally a Penn Central GP38-2 that was transferred to Conrail. Then after Conrail breakup, it was sent over to Norfolk Southern as 5281. Now the reason I'm tracing this is because it's actually pretty interesting. 5281, there was about 4 or 5 years where it was working out of South Amboy, out of Brown's Yard. And there's tons of pictures of it working on in that area. So I was like, well, it's obvious we're going to keep the number, because there's tons of pictures of it actually living out its life here in New Jersey. So GP38-2s, they were produced from January of 1972 to July of 1986. Over 2,200 units produced by Electromotive Division. So it was rather quite a few examples of the GP38-2, and tons of them are still running to this day. It contains the 645 prime mover, 16-cylinder diesel, producing about 2,000 horsepower, and the -2 model. I've gotten in hot water of not wording properly, but the research that I've done is the -2 indicates that it has modular electronic components. So what that means is the components are easier to be changed out for maintenance. That's what the -2 means. So Conrail GP38-2s, they actually inherited 223 after Conrail Day 1. And during the locomotive shortage in the late 70s, they ordered another 119 units from EMD, bringing up their total roster to 342. So one of the more prolific locomotives on Conrail. Okay, so now that we got all the backstory out of the way, let's cut over to the video and see how we did it, and I'll talk to you afterwards. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and unbox the unit and unpackage it and get it out. Then I'm going to go ahead and label everything with the unit number, because I am doing 2 builds at once, so I don't want to mix everything up. Then I'll take all of the components and parts and put them in the jewel case for safekeeping. Now we're going to go ahead and disassemble the shell. I'm going to take everything apart, take off the cab, take off the walkways with the handrails, because we need to strip those to get that white stripe off the side. Then I'll take out the windshields and all and put them inside the jewel case for safekeeping. Okay, so now we're going to take the shell and put it in a container, and then we're going to put it in 90% isopropyl alcohol and let it soak overnight to remove all the paint and decals. Okay, so while the shell is soaking, we're going to go ahead and get started on the DCC board install. So this is a pretty quick install. All you have to do is loosen the screws on the chassis, then you're going to remove the light shield. You're going to pop the tabs on the motor, and then part the chassis and remove the old light board. So once we have the old light board out of the way, we're going to put in the new decoder, and we'll button back up everything and tighten up the screws on the chassis. Then we'll take it over to the programming track and program it. So the next day, we're going to go take the shell out of the alcohol. We're going to scrub it with a toothbrush and warm soapy water and dry it off. Then we'll come over here to our spray booth and we'll use some Model Flex Primer Gray and go ahead and prime up the shell and get it ready for paint. Okay, so I'm going to let the primer cure for 24 hours. Then we're going to come back in here with some Model Flex Conrail Blue, and we'll spray down the shell, the walkways, the handrails, and the cab. Okay, so I'm going to let the paint dry for 24 hours, and then we're going to come in and do the decals. I'm using microscale diesels painted by Conrail set, and that'll be for all of the graphics, stripes, the can opener logo, and such. Then I'll come back with the Conrail diesel and data striping kit, and that'll have all the warnings and labels that I'm going to add to the shell. So I'm going to let all the decals set up on the shell, and then once they're firm, I'm going to come back with some micro sol and put it down on the decals to soften them up and get them to suck down nice to the shell. I'm going to let the decals set overnight and dry up, and then I'm going to come in the next day and I'm going to put in my Microtrains medium shank universal body mount couplers in the shell and take out the old Atlas couplers. So two steps that were missed here in the video, and that's because I ran out of room on the camera, was I painted the handrails and I installed the cab signal box. So unfortunately I didn't get to see that happen, but they're there. So once all that's done, I'm going to reassemble the shell and the chassis, put the fuel tank back on, and we'll head over to the spray booth for weathering. Okay, so once I'm in the spray booth, the first thing I'm going to do is take some Tamiya panel line paint, and I'm going to darken in all the grills for the fans and grates. So the first layer of weathering we're going to use is some Model Flex sand, and I'm going to put a nice coating all over the whole chassis just to represent some fading. Okay, so the second layer, I'm going to come in here with some grimy black and rail brown mixed 50-50 with some rubbing alcohol for flow. And then I'm coming here, I'm going to hit all the spots to add some accents for dirt and rust. Okay, and that's going to put a wrap on it. Okay, so there you go. That's how we did it. Yeah, great project. Another good looking locomotive for the engine house. This one's going to pretty much be in local service, so you'll see that in upcoming videos when we get back to operations. And yeah, very happy to have it. So leaving the number boards white might be a little controversial. However, I did find photographic evidence that there was a time period in the late 80s, early 90s where Conrail was kind of experimenting or making the change to going to white number boards with black lettering versus the black number boards with white lettering. So there is some oddballs out there that was in the old can opener logo with the white number boards. So I was just like, you know what, let's just go with it because that's what the factory number boards from Atlas were, and I didn't want to change them. And overall, they look pretty good, I think, at the end. So looking through the photos, I didn't see, there's not too many photos of the locomotive or fireman side. Usually it's from the front end or rear of this unit. Didn't see any evidence or couldn't tell of a cab vent. So I just went with it because Atlas actually, in their, as we've seen in previous videos, when they kind of know this cab vent's there, they kind of get that uneven spacing with their numbers. But these numbers were evenly spaced on the model, so I'm assuming maybe they did some research or maybe they came to the same conclusion I did. There's no evidence of a cab vent, so I just normally space the numbers. 8078 did have cab signals. I found a bunch of photographs where you could see the cab signal box, so I installed that. Weathering. Actually, this unit actually had a really cool weathering effect, and it had that Conrust. That's what all the Conrail modelers call it, Conrust, that kind of maroonish rust oxidation that would settle on the flat surfaces on the high hood and the low hood. Also, there was evidence, I don't know if there was maybe something wrong with the dynamic brake unit or the blower motor, or because right on the blower housing, there was a lot of reddish Conrust on it and all through the vents above it too. So I was like, pretty cool. I think I did a pretty good job of representing that when I was using the airbrush. I think it came out pretty good. And then it was just a regular DCC board install from Digitrax. It was a leftover from another unit. I'm not really too sure on the model number. I did not do any kind of programming on JMRI for you, so because it was a pretty straightforward install. So overall, it was just pretty much a straightforward project. So very happy with the outcome, and it's going to be a great addition to the layout. So I think this is going to be the last video for a while here on the Locomotive Shop. I've pretty much exhausted. I think I have like 2 more projects to do. I'm kind of, there are 2 U25Bs. Just waiting until I can figure out decoders, sound decoders to put in them, because I definitely want sound in those units. And but that project may be a while off. I'm not going to say I'm going to be getting it done anytime soon. When I do, I will produce a video, but I think pretty much our regular Locomotive Shop is going to be coming to a close because of, as I've indicated in previous videos, yeah, I'm just running out of units to do, and I'm kind of getting to the point here on the layout where I got so many locomotives. I mean, they always say you can never have too many. It's kind of an addiction. But I've got a good amount of locomotives now that I don't really need to buy all that many more. So now that I'm going to be purchasing more selectively, I think all my additions to the layout are going to be new locomotives. And they're going to be new with sound installed. So I don't think I'll be doing any more sound installs. Obviously, I'll be doing weathering on them. If that comes to a point, then maybe I'll just start making weathering videos. But the whole Locomotive Shop, I think, will be done. Because I'm just, what you don't see behind the scenes of this video series was that there was a lot of duds. A lot of duds. I got quite a few locomotives that just went right to the circular file cabinet because they were just, owners believe they have some product that's so much better than what it really was. and you get it here on site, and you start really doing evaluation, and it's not even worth your time and energy and the amount of money that you need to buy to make it worthwhile to run. So I had seriously probably had a good 5 or 6 locomotives that I wasted money on to just go in the garbage can. And then there was also 2 units of those. There was 5 that went right to the garbage can because they were just junk, and there was 2 units that I really just screwed up so bad that I was like, forget it, just throw them in the garbage and start all over. And one was because I cooked the board. It had a short or something, and I cooked the board, and I was just like, and then I put another board in and cooked that one. So there's just been a whole lot of backstory to this whole process over the last 2 years, 3 years of building up the locomotive roster that's really just made me exhausted from doing it. So I'm just like, you know what? No more used stuff. I'm just going to buy new for the units that I want to buy when I can buy maybe 1 or 2 a year, and we'll just go on from there. So that's why I think the Locomotive Shop is going to be coming to a close. So, after saying that, despite all of the failures and the aggravation, there was a lot of success. I mean, you look back at the playlist of the Locomotive Shop, I did a lot of work, and it was a lot of fun. There is something to it when you take something, a locomotive, and you make it your own through all that. It's a lot of fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had a lot of fun doing it. It's just that the whole process was just tiring, and I think it's time to take a break. But, I think the whole idea of this series was to teach you not to be afraid of taking a locomotive and changing it and making it what you want it, adding in the sound. With the drop-in sound decoders that are out now, it's really not that hard. Stripping the shells, really not to be scared of. Just a little bit of alcohol, and that will take off the paint and the decals. And then just going through and repainting and redecaling. So, yeah, it's really not something to be scared of. I'm just doing it because, don't forget, we've been doing it for 3-4 years, and that's why I'm like, it's time for a break. So those of you who have been following this series along from the beginning, I really have to thank you very much for following along, give me all of your support and comments and tips, and I hope I was able to give back and pass on some information in this series. And I will miss it eventually, but I think the channel is going to move on, and we have other projects to do, and it's the end. I think it's time to close it out. So after that long-winded explanation, I think I'm going to put a wrap on the video and the series. So I thank you all for your support and watching, and make sure you keep an eye on the channel for the other video series. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for our daily updates. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. And thank you very much for watching. Bye.